PXG has done it again with the launch of a new lineup of drivers, fairways, hybrids, and irons. The new Gen 5 golf clubs deliver significantly increased MOI, faster ball speeds, longer distances, and tighter dispersions, all coupled with the exceptional feel and sound golfers have come to expect from PXG. Schedule your custom fitting or buy online at pxg.com.
And we're back, Stripe Show podcast on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Thank you for making us part of your day. We switched it up a little this week. Froggy jumped in yesterday. We got Tom Hoagie.
Ooh.
It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah.
You know, Hoagie, of course, went to TCU and
rough day.
He got this wild hair. He's like, you know, I'm going to finish up here, T3 at Century. Nice. Made some money. Fly on back to LA, watch my Horned Frogs, and then back to Honolulu. And, well, hopefully he had a couple chilly ones to ease the pain a little bit, because the Bulldogs opened up a can of whip ass on the TCU Horned Frogs to help me make sense of that just a little bit, and what's ahead at the Sony Open in Honolulu. Will Haskett, how you doing, buddy?
I'm pretty good. The Dogs scored 9 touchdowns last night. I had a parlay that I thought was pretty good. I got the only touchdown scorer for TCU right, Duggan, the quarterback. It needed a Brock Bowers TD for Georgia. Got that late in the game. And McIntosh, the running back. And you can't tell me with 9 touchdowns in that game, I can't get one from your best running back. I mean, that crushed me at the end of it. Yeah. I mean, thank goodness for a little bit of sports gambling, because it keeps you engaged in a game. I mean, even that last drive, I mean, he wasn't getting a lot of touches. I mean, they had called off the Dogs, pun intended there. But, I mean, come on, man. You scored 9 touchdowns in the national title game, and I can't get your best running back to cross the end zone once to make a little, plus 500 parlay happen. Man, that ruined me last night, Travis.
You know what it reminded me of is when you're kind of working yourself up into golf, you're getting better, you're playing the white tees, and you're like, man, I'm getting good. Get some good scores, playing your home track. Then your buddies invite you to a different track, and it's got a few more trees, it's got some more water, some more OB, just difficult, right? Different. It looks different to your eyes. Like, man, this doesn't look like what I'm used to seeing over here. And your buddy's like, hey, let's move back one. Let's go back to the Blues. Yeah.
Sure.
And you go back and that's kind of what you get, right? Like, oh, wow, I hit it over there. And, oh, wow, I got penalized for that because there's water over there. And at my course, it's kind of wide open over there. And I knock it on the greens and 3-putt. There's more undulation on these greens versus where I play. It's flat. So that's what it reminded me of. You move back a tee, you go to a different course, a little more penal. Like, that didn't look exactly like what I'm used to seeing over here. And TCU hadn't seen anything. And I mean anything like what they saw.
And they talked about it afterwards. They were like, they're in a different league. Like, we're not prepared for what that is, which is kind of amazing to hear from a team in the national championship game to come out of it. And here's my other thing too. And I'm in Indianapolis, where apparently we're going to be flirting maybe with Jim Harbaugh or whatever. But did Jim Harbaugh lose some dollars in his next negotiation round last night? Because how in the world does Michigan lose to TCU in the semifinals? How does that happen? Like, you're watching the game last night, and oh man, that if you're a Michigan fan, you just got to be thinking to yourself, what the hell happened?
Well, I think Harbaugh is going to go back to the pros, and I think when you look at that team like Georgia, and you've looked at Alabama in the past, and you're like, can we get that level of athlete to Michigan? Can we get that level of athlete to TCU? And that many of them? Probably not. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and I know Michigan is really moved forward. I think that's great for college football, and I think it's great for college football when you have a TCU Horned Frogs in the Final Four. And I think you got to give the underdog per se some hope. But when you get that many 5-stars out there running around, and all of them are going to the pros, and they're playing at that level, it's over. I don't care who you're putting out there. I mean, it's just a different level of play. Speaking of that, we were talking before we came on, Sony Open. This is a pretty good field. I'm excited. I enjoyed last week's Century. I don't think Colin did late on Sunday. A little bit of an issue there coming down the stretch. We've seen it a couple times for him. I had a lot to say about his new putting stroke, which I really like, and we'll get to that later on when he gets back out there again on the West Coast. But, look, Rahm winning, the favorite. I mentioned earlier in the week Rahm's poised, finished the year strong internationally last year, overcame some of the putting issues, the short game issues.
Yep.
These boys are in for it with Rahm. They better bring it when he's in the field because this dude's on a rampage and he's going to tell everybody about it. He don't care about anything. He's like, this official World Golf ranking stuff, this sucks. This is a joke. And I'm going to go out there and I'm just going to show everybody I'm the best player in the world. And it's hard to argue.
Yeah. The World Golf ranking stuff is starting to irritate me a little bit, Travis. Like, what are we supposed to do? Of course, you were the best player in the world last week, but we're not going to flip it every week. Does that mean that Billy Horschel or whoever was having a bad week ball striking wise is now all of a sudden like has to drop from being 20th to 40th because they were the 40th? I mean, look, it's going to work itself out, especially the guys in the top 10. It's like, unless your number one goal in life is to chase down world number one ranking weeks because you want to somehow make a foolish attempt at getting the Tigers record, like just go play golf. Like, I don't understand. I mean, if you need something to motivate you, fine. I don't know why Rahm would need that to motivate himself. In fact, the two guys that were there at the end, I thought were probably the most motivated two guys coming into 2023. And Colin Morikawa for 3 days looked like it was going to be the start of something truly spectacular. And if that putting stroke is anywhere near where it was for the first 54 holes, Travis, the rest of the year, he's going to win multiple times. I think if you're on Twitter and you've been following anybody, I think all of us were regurgitating the same numbers over the course of 48 hours over the weekend. If he's a +1 strokes gain putting guy, or at some point he was 1.7 gain per round through the first 3 days. If he gets anywhere near that territory, he's going to win every time he plays. So it was a satisfactory start for both of those guys. Unfortunately, the one guy who loses does it in a very unfortunate way when it was all said and done. But the fact that they go 1-2, and I think the spotlight needed to be on them as guys who had disappointing 2022s comparative to their mean, right? Comparative to what we expect out of them, ended up being the two guys that were the best golfers all week at Kapalua. So it sets up for both of them to have a great year. It sets up in a year where we're going to see a lot of the best players against each other. As much, I don't really know if the designated stuff is going to play out in our mind as much as in title as it is, but we're going to see these guys against each other like we always do 15, 20 times a year. And I think it bodes well for the sport because you've got a bunch of other motivated guys. Rory wasn't there last week. I mean, if we could end up with 6 or 7 of these top level players at their peak at the same time in a tournament, it would be really fun to see happen this year. And maybe we get that because we don't really get that as often as we think we do.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I think Rahm's point is since probably August, the playoffs, he's been on a bit of a tear and he hasn't been able to climb the ranking as much as he thinks he should in comparison to how the
should
points
it be
are
1 year instead
distributed.
of 2 years? Like what? I mean, sure, we can fiddle with the math. He's the best player in the world right now, anecdotally speaking. Just because there's a website that doesn't say he is, let's not get bent out of shape over it.
We could talk for 40 minutes on the official World Golf rankings, but instead, this is the Sony Open show, which is in the Wailea. I love it. Wailea Country Club. It's just fun to say. Honolulu, par 70. This is a short one, just over 7,000. Of course, you're going to have the Bermuda Rough there in Hawaii, which is, can be grainy, even though these greens are relatively flat. They're pretty easy to putt. Last week you saw more undulation, slower greens because of that. This week, flatter greens, probably speed them up just a bit, but they do have some grain to them. This is a golf course. Look, you're not going to overpower this course. You've got some dog legs. And you got to play to the dog legs. You got to let your irons go to work. And historically speaking, when you look at the previous winners, you got to have a pretty special putting week. I don't want to say it's a putting contest, but when you look at the stats, strokes gained putting seems to pass strokes gained approach, which is always interesting, from that standpoint. Hideki, let it be noted before we get into the odds. Hideki last year, he won this 23 under. It was his best putting week of his entire career.
Yeah.
So, him coming in and doing that again is highly unlikely. But then you go back down and you look at Kevin Na. I mean, that dude can putt. 2021, he was 20 under. Cameron Smith won in 2020. That dude can putt. 11 under. Played more difficult that year. 2019, Matt Kuchar. That dude can putt. -22. So Hideki, not always labeled as your great putter. So you feel like, all right, there's some guys that maybe historically are not your best putters, but let's have a good putting week. Let's have a great putting week, which is what it's going to take on these greens. But then also you've had the Kevin Nas, Cameron Smith, Matt Kuchars, Patton Kazires, who are historically really good putters, win here as well. When you think of Waialae Country Club, give my audience a few things that come to mind for you.
There is no course on the PGA Tour schedule that has as much dependency on strokes gained putting in terms of its percentage that it factors into performance, if that makes sense. I'm trying to say it in as simplest a way, but putting matters here more than any other course on the PGA Tour. That's just how it has played out in the strokes gained era.
Yep.
And so you're right. You can have great ball striking weeks or be a great ball striker, like when Justin Thomas shot 59 here and coasted to victory, or Hideki Matsuyama last year, but you have to pay it off with the putter. So it becomes a completely different golf course in this two-step through Hawaii, in the fact that plotters, accurate players who can really putt tend to do really well here. And there are some guys maybe at the bottom of the distance charts who sort of need this week every year as a jumping off point if they're going to have a successful season. You know, guys that hit a ton of fairways, keep the ball in front of them, and really know how to putt the pill. And so I think it's easy to sort of shade towards those guys. And with the star power that we have this week, some pretty good depth at the top. Pick your poison from those guys that are low odds on the board in terms of who you trust most right now in their ball striking, but you also trust them all the time with their putter. And so it's not to say that betting Hideki Matsuyama last year was a bad bet, because Hideki Matsuyama is a world-class player. If you look at his career history at this tournament, it took him a long time to figure out this golf course. He was really bad early, and he got some exemptions at a young age because there's a huge Japanese influence at this tournament because of Sony's relationship, because of how easy it is for Japanese golf fans to make the trek over to Honolulu to be able to see this tournament. But it took him a while to sort of figure out where to put the ball on this golf course and put himself in the best position to make putts. So I think the same way to get yourself sort of handicapping this field is, who do you already trust on the greens to begin with? And then let's look at their ball striking form beyond that, because I have no problem just completely rostering or betting guys who are all above average strokes gained putters.
So I hear that. You know who I think of? 20-year-old Tom Kim.
I know. It's perfect for him. It's a perfect golf course for Tom Kim. It's absolutely perfect.
It is.
Because here's the thing too, Travis, and I didn't mention about the golf course. I haven't gotten a perfect read from those on site about what we expect, but it's been dry in Hawaii. We don't expect any rain this week, so it's not going to be like that Cam Smith year when he and Brendan Steele had like 3 layers on. It was cold, it was rainy, it was windy, it was nasty. We're not expecting that. And so this golf course can get to bouncing, and it can get to running out. And if you get it through the dog legs of these fairways, because again, the heavy hitters have to take weirder angles. Tom Kim doesn't have to take as weird angles.
No.
He can chase balls to those dog legs, whereas some guys will chase them through the dog legs. And even if the rough is a little bit suspect, because we haven't had a lot of rain, you're not going to hold the greens, because these greens can firm up as well. So it bodes well for those plotters, because they're going to hit to the right spots. They're going to keep that ball in front of them, and they're going to open up the openings of these greens. It's an absolutely perfect golf course for Tom Kim. It's perfect.
It is 11-1, Sanjay 14, Spieth 16, Matsuyama 18, and Brian Harmon currently 18. Of course, these odds are changing. You got to move around. You can get different odds at different books, and particularly in golf, probably more so than any other sport. But, you know, when you look at the short odds, I mean, look, I said last week, I can't bet Rahm. I love Rahm this week, but I'm not going to put him on my card because you get shamed for that at 6-1. But I mean, if you go by your gut, I mean, last week I was in love with Rahm. I didn't put him on my card, but you know, you're not going to be surprised that he just continues to go out there and play. Now, I didn't necessarily. I wanted to see a little more from Morikawa with the flat stick, and he certainly showed it early. But you look at the short odds this week, and I look at this and I'm like, man, Kim is the man. This is his course. T5 last week, elite iron player, solid putter. He's going to keep it in front of him here, chasing it to these dog legs. I have more faith in Kim than I do any of the short odds right now, and I'm comfortable saying that. At 20 years of age. I mean, he's been pro since 2018, for crying out loud. He's been a pro since he was 16. So he's an old hat.
Yeah, I like it too. It's always weird to me why we look at a guy who's shortest odds and then we want to question that, right? Like there's a reason why the books are putting him there. I think Sungjae Im right behind him is also a really, really good bet. The hardest thing here is that you just can't sprinkle it on every single guy that you like that sort of fits the mold. Like, I love Brian Harmon in a number of scenarios this week. He may be my highest price guy in a DFS lineup because I'm saving a few $100 from the guys above him. And I like a lot of the guys maybe in the $7,000 to $8,000 range when you're looking at guys to build your card. But then, okay, he's a good value for me in DFS, but do I really like him at 18-1 to win the entire golf tournament? Like, are those extra 7 points that I'm getting from him versus Tom Kim really that enticing to me? It's hard. I think from my perspective, and I'm not as much of I don't have a background in the sort of the game theory and how the math works out necessarily from it. It's kind of a pick your poison sort of moment there. It's a perfect golf course for all three of those guys I mentioned, for Tom Kim, for Sungjae Im, who's a precision driver of the golf ball, a little longer than Tom Kim, but again, meshes that with incredible accuracy. Same thing with Brian Harmon, great putter, grinder, going to hit to those spots, can work the ball. You know, they all three, they sort of fit the mold. So I like all three of them at the top of those odds boards. But right now, I don't know which way my gut's necessarily leaning on who I like. I'll tell you right now, I like Brian Harmon to fill out a lot of DFS lineups because, again, the value I think is better than some of those guys at the top. But if I'm thinking outright, I may even go Sungjae before I go Tom Kim outright.
What's interesting is Harmon really hasn't played that well here. I mean, particularly the last 4 years. I mean, he was T4 and 18, and then he really hadn't done much since. Im hasn't played that great here. You know, T16 back in 2019, and really hasn't done much since. So I you know, there's something going on there with those two. So I'm like, all right, give me the kid. You know, he's just freewheeling it, playing great golf right now. He steps up to that course. He's like, man, there's not a golf course that's better for me than Waialae Country Club. You go deeper into the odds. Harmon, of course, a bulldog. Russell Henley, a bulldog. Those guys are going to be smiling ear to ear out there. Corey Connors, 22. Hoagie, 25. That dude is probably going to be sleeping, hopefully, today and tomorrow, because he's been, you know, he was on. We talked to him yesterday. He was in LA, so he flew there, and we got him in his hotel room. We talked to him for a while, and then he went to the game and he flew right back. So you want to talk about putting on some miles. So I don't know. I'm probably going to stay
away. At least it was a West Coast game.
Yeah, I'm going to probably stay away from Hoagie. Horschel, 30-1, just hit it awful. I think rumor has it he's going to probably withdraw this week. Taylor Montgomery, a rookie I'm very excited about. Probably not the best course for him because he's a long ball hitter, but just I think the new best putter on the PGA Tour, 35-1. McNeely
has
35.
Value there. That there's value there because of that stick. Like the question is how quickly is the learning curve about where to hit the ball? Because again, you hit a couple of space balls here, you get out of position, you take some birdie opportunities off the board for you. Don't take advantage of 9, which is like the easiest par 5 on tour, or one of the, well, outside of 5 last week. But you know, he's the interesting conundrum to me. And I know we're going to talk about some other rookies because I'm really high on him for the rest of the year, but this is a perfect conundrum week for Taylor Montgomery because you believe in what we've already seen from him, or how much do you buy into the course fit? I actually tend to believe in the former, that he's going to figure out this golf course and that putter is going to be exactly what we expect it to be on a week that it is. But it's a phenomenal sort of dissection of guy and course. And what do we do with our gut here when it comes to Taylor Montgomery?
I think I'm with you. Like, and this is a strategy that I have to, I get in my head from time to time. It's like, just because he's a long ball hitter doesn't mean that he can't play more plotters type of golf as well, right? Like, he can't just chase his 3-wood out there and let his putter go to work. Like, Montgomery's a long ball hitter, okay, so he wants to use that to an advantage on a golf course where he can hit more drivers, but it doesn't mean he can't play a course like Waialae.
Doesn't mean he can't hit it straight this week and then have wedges in if he cuts the corners on a couple of holes where you can cut the corner. Like we saw JT do that when he dominated this golf course, just took it over trees and put it right where it needed to be. So, I mean, there's a blueprint for someone to do it. We just don't see that blueprint as often, and especially this week where I think it's going to be a little bit bouncier, it's going to be difficult, but he could certainly do it.
I think Maverick McNeely fits that. Again, longer type of hitter. But again, a very nice putter of the ball. I think McNeely is an interesting person for me this week. I haven't made any bets on Montgomery McNeely, but my gut tells me that I need to play one of those two, if not both.
like
Now, I
that.
probably won't play him to win, but I certainly probably play him in a top 20. That's what it feels like to me, with both of those guys as far as those types of odds. Now, one thing to note, Corey Connors, we know will play from the fairway, and we know will let his irons go to work. Now, can these flatter greens, easier to putt, help a player like Corey Connors? Historically, it says yes, he's putted better here than he has at other types of places. So we know, let's say from tee to green, with the maybe, take away some of the short game here and there with Corey, but gosh, a splash with the putter this week, +5. Corey Connors can get in the winner's circle because he will hit it good enough. The question is, can he do enough on these flat surfaces? I'm going to say no, and that's why I tend to kind of push down to a Montgomery, a McNeely, and I'm more apt, Will, to play Keegan Bradley here in a top 20.
Yeah, there are too many guys available who we believe in as putters to, I think, take that flyer. Now, can it backfire? It absolutely can. But if you're being smart with your money at the beginning of the week, Corey Connors is built for Valspar. He's built for golf courses where it
Right.
truly comes down to being able to hit it better than everybody tee to green. And yes, you have to get fortunate with your putter that week, but great putters who don't hit it very well have no chance. Like, your putter's just not going to bail you out enough on a complete second shot ball striker sort of golf course. So there are ways where you're going to be able to get this type of value on an elite ball striker like Corey Connors, and on a week where we know that putting has as much to do with being successful and winning as any other week on the PGA Tour. Like, there are too many guys at the top of the board, Travis, that are good putters. It's like, give me the guys who I know I can believe in week and week out with the flat stick.
Yep, I agree. No, I agree. That's the same logic that I've been going through all morning with Corey Connors. Now, as we continue to come down the board, now we're getting into now we're getting into KH Lee, who played last week, and that tends to historically matter here. 35-1. Cam Davis, 35-1. Kuchar, 40. Mitchell will be played a bunch. He's had success here at 40. Harris English, 40. And Adam Scott, 40. We'll stop there. The guy that I just cannot get out of my head is Cam Davis. I don't know why, I know why. But I just feel like Cam Davis, he's not the most accurate. I get that, but he is long, so he'll probably take the driver out of his hand a little bit this week, which I think will bode well for him. Hit the 3-wood a little bit more to the dog legs. Outside of that, I like the course for him. I think he can do enough. He's got some win equity. I put a win ticket on him.
Wow. Yeah. That's bold. This is a golf course for me that, you know what? He won in Detroit. And many people will make a lot of similarity sort of claims there because, like this golf course, it's super flat, it runs, it chases, it's narrow-ish. That golf course is more straight down and back, as opposed to this course sort of being crooked. Like, every par 4 has some sort of notch in it.
Mm-hmm.
I would stay away. I'm staying away from him this week for that particular reason, because, again, the occasional space ball here and there, I think it's too irresponsible to say he's sort of a superstar in the making, because we've seen some flashes from him, but let's be honest, the flashes haven't happened at a regular enough basis to sort of say, oh, this is going to then take us to whatever the next sort of steps are. But if we do see a superstar sort of moment from him this year, I think it's going to be in a bigger ballpark.
It's interesting. He's been solid off the tee here. He's been pretty solid off the tee, and he's had some decent finishes in the past, including a top 10. So I don't know. I look at him. I feel like, all right, get the driver out of my hand. Let's play small ball this week. Good iron player. I think he's good enough around the greens. I think his putter has been trending the right way. I look at him, his strokes gained putting. I think he's really become actually a very nice putter. I would put him in the upper half on the PGA Tour, certainly in this field. So, all right, he's a guy. I'm not like in love with it, but it's eating at me, and I just feel like I'm putting him on the board. Well, I already
All
bet
right.
it. Cam
Go
Davis.
do it.
I got him at 40-1.
There are no wrong answers here.
Siwoo 45, JJ Spawn 45. Putnam should feel good here 45.
I'm big Putnam guy this week. Massive.
Yeah, Putnam should feel good here. Yeah.
And everything's trending for him too, Travis. So it's nothing. It's a perfect golf course for him. He contended here. I think maybe in his rookie season when he shoot like 60 or 61, I think, like early that week, and then kind of backdoored his way at the end of the weekend into a good finish. Elite putter of the golf ball. So we've got the track record here. He openly talks about how he's a fairways guy. He knows he's not going to overpower any golf course. Like this is the week, and this is the week where Andrew Putnam knows that he can go out and do things. And then couple that with the fact he's one of a couple of guys I would say is chomping at the bit this week because of how last year finished. There were some guys in the second half of 2022 that really turned it on. His strokes gained total after July 1st last year was over +1. He was like plus 1.1 or plus 1.2. He was nearly 0.9 of a shot better in the second half of 2022 than he was the first half of 2022. Had a couple of top fives, 6 top 25s the second half of the year, had a chance to win again. Like this is a guy that I think is just like, I need to get back out on the golf course. Now, could win or break end up, eliminating all that momentum? Sure, it absolutely could. But the last couple of months that we saw Andrew Putnam play golf on the PGA Tour, he was playing at a level over the course of several months where his strokes gain numbers were at a winnable level. Not just like, oh, this guy's trending in the right direction. Like north of +1 strokes gain total means you are in form enough to win a golf tournament. It's almost a matter of time. So he kind of fits that bill as somebody that I thought really turned it on late last year. And it's going to what I think is one of, 3 or 4 of his best course fits this week. So I am all in across the board. Give me outrights, top 10s, top 20s, DFS, Andrew Putnam. Like I'm heavily invested in Andrew Putnam this week.
Yeah, I think it's a good bet too. I played him in a top 20. I like Putnam here a lot. I thought last year iron game just steadily improved. Putter steadily improved. I think the shorter track.
He's in a good space, man. He's in a really good space mentally.
I think this golf course, the shorter nature of it, the plotter certainly will help him off the tee. So yeah, I'm in on Putnam. If you want a putter, go Poston. Bezuidenhout's at 50. So one of the things I want to do here is talk some of these younger guys too. First, second year players, and this takes us here to Alex Smalley, who is in year 2. Now, I don't like Smalley to win, but I do think Smalley is someone that I've got my eye on to continue his growth. I felt like Alex Smalley last year as a rookie he looked more comfortable and more the part as the season went on. And I think this is a place that kind of fits him as well. And I would not be scared to go top 20 with an Alex Smalley as a second-year player at Sony.
I think there's a couple of guys that fit that same bill, and I go back to what I was talking about in terms of improvement. So second half of 2022, he was nearly +1 strokes gain total. He saw an 0.8 of a shot improvement from the first half of the year to the second half of the year. What is that? That's a guy learning how to play in the PGA Tour. A lot of it may be comfortable courses in the summer, things warm up, you find your swing a little bit. But guys that just sort of take a little moment to get into their rhythm. Somebody who I think a lot of people are high on kind of fits that same category. We saw huge gains from in terms of them improving to become not just an above average player, but just kind of knocking on the door of being even a great player from their metrics the second half of the year. He's farther down the board, but a guy like Hayden Buckley kind of fits into that same sort of category. Like these guys have sort of the moxie, and they also have the experience that we've seen at the levels getting to where they are. And yeah, you're right. They're not necessarily rookies now, but they've learned from that rookie experience. And then having the freedom this year, although it's a little bit different with only the top 70 making the playoffs and us not knowing exactly what the fall is going to mean. They may have a better idea what the fall is going to mean towards their future than some other people do. But you've got a little bit more comfort in these guys knowing they get to set their schedule. They get to pick where they get to play for the most part this year, as opposed to waiting in some cases last year for their rookie priority ranking to get them into some of these fields. And they may even be able to get into some designated events if they play well this week and their FedEx Cup ranking is high enough, which will certainly help the cause as well. So those are guys that I love, Travis, because we saw the grit and determination and the grind last year pay off late in the season. And so the reward for that should be in some of these events where you don't have 20 of the top 30 guys in the world playing, that you get that first PGA Tour win. And I think we're going to have, I actually tweeted this a couple of weeks ago. I think we have a first time winner this week. I know we haven't mentioned anybody that could be it, but it just sort of feels like that's going to be this season for us because we're going to have so much attention on 15, 20 big tournaments. So what do we need the rest of the tournament schedule to look like? We need to build the next level of star power. So while this week has a lot of guys who could be multiple time winners on the PGA Tour, I don't know. I'm sort of feeling like we go from a Morikawa Rahm throwdown last week to, let's meet this guy who wins by 2 and shows some stones coming down the stretch on Sunday to win for the first time. So I don't know if I'm feeling it as much as I felt it a couple of weeks ago when I thought I talked myself into the narrative, but why not an Alex Smalley or a Hayden Buckley or a Taylor Montgomery or one of these guys who, if they're going to be in that next level or they're going to play their way into these designated events, no better time than win this week, Bubba. Let's go. Yeah,
I mean, you start looking at some of the second-year players. I mean, Buckley's right there at the top of the list with Smalley and obviously Cameron Young, who's not in the field. But the season that he had, Mito Pereira not in the field, Sahith Theegala not in the field. I think David Lipsky is in the field. I think he's an interesting name this week. I think he'll have to he'll have to feel good about where he is with this golf course. Grayson Sigg is in the field this week. I kind of like Sigg.
Kurt Kitayama had a good year last year. Kind of fits into that same sort of mold. Guy who keeps it in front of him, played really well down the stretch, figured things out, had some good finishes. I mean, again, all of these guys were viable at one point in time, had some equity on a Sunday at some point in time last year. What they learned from that? And again, I think all of them just like they could not get ready for the season. We talk about these guys wanting time off, taking 4 or 5 months off. All these guys we just mentioned don't want any time off. Keep playing golf. They want to keep playing golf and let's go because they know that their time is coming soon.
All right, that's a good segue here as we continue to work down the board. Kurt Kitayama, 55, Grillo, 55, Mackenzie Hughes, McCarthy, Woodland, 55. There's Webb at 60.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to give me Webb Simpson at 60?
No.
And then I'll stop at Adam Svensson at 75. We talked about course fit. Svensson's not real long off the tee, but he'll wear you out with his irons. And I think he's an improving putter with the work he's doing with John Graham. Maybe he's not quite ready, to go 23, 24 here, but I think Svensson's another interesting name. I've always been intrigued by Adam.
Yep.
I think he's a great iron player. I think that he's had some mental things with the flat stick that I think he's worked out. I think it's a high ceiling with Adam. I've always felt that. I was really happy to see him get his win. And I'm really intrigued. I don't know if I'll play him here this week, but I'm really intrigued by that name as we start looking at some of these next players, right? Who's going to blossom up? Who's going to bubble up and get win 2, win 3, win 4 type of action on the PGA Tour over the next couple years. And if the putter is solid, I think you have to put Adam Svensson in that name. But I just can't look. I got to bet Webb in top 20. I mean, if you're gonna give me that kind of money, a Webb Simpson, I got to do it.
A refreshed, re-energized, and probably as motivated as ever, you would hope Webb Simpson coming into this year. I mean, last year was bad, and you have to sort of ask yourself the questions of, look, he's not going to be a top 10 player in the world again. I don't think that's what he did to get to the top 10 in the world. I mean, he was an outlier. He was below average in terms of distance. He was losing strokes off the tee, and he was making up for it with just world-class ball striking and reinventing himself as a putter. But that means it could work this week. You don't have to be an above average driver of the golf ball this week. You have to just make sure you don't make mistakes off the tee and guide it around that golf course. But he had deficiencies across the board last year, Travis. So the question is, what happened in the reset? What has the conversations between he and Paul Tesori and everybody else in that team sort of looked like to get geared up for this season? And so it's in the same sort of mold as those young guys. Like, has he been chomping at the bit because he knows that this is a week where he can really get off to a good calendar year start because this is a good golf course for him? I tend to agree with you. Will he win the golf tournament? Probably not. But if you can get Webb Simpson value like we can this week on a top 20, I mean, we weren't getting plus odds on a top 20 from Webb Simpson 2.5 years ago. And now all of a sudden we can get more, not just plus odds, but good plus odds on a top 20. You take him. And that transitions to Adam Svensson. I was with him, walked every step at his win at Sea Island. what he did with the putter was magnificent. His backstory is that he was a guy with all the skills and all the talent and really had never gone all in golf. And he spent the last year truly going all in, and it paid off with a win. It's a little bit disconcerting to see how he played last week. There's a guy who, I understand it's not a good course fit for him, but he's a guy that's never been afraid to go low. And that's a golf course that gives you the opportunity to get on incredible runs. Mm-hmm. So could he come out and shoot 60, 61, 62 on this golf course? Absolutely. Like he's a prime candidate every week to be that first round leader. Holy cow. Some guys 3 shots clear of the field, making the turn on a Thursday. Look,
nobody needed the offseason.
I told my best friend who had his last $5 in his DraftKings account the other day to put a top 10 bet on Adam Svensson this week. So I'm not going to hide away from the fact that I think it's good for Adam Svensson. I just didn't like what I saw last week in Maui. So maybe that was just kicking a little bit of rust off the tires.
Yeah, kick it down. Kick it off there a little bit. Big boy tournament for him. Big field for Adam. Yeah. So I think you have to chalk that one up. I'm willing to look past it. I don't think he's going to win, but I haven't bet it yet, top 20. But I think I will definitely lean with Webb when it comes to that, and probably play the safer bet with Webb, who has 3 top 4 finishes here in the last 4 years. Now, granted, that's when he was playing great golf. It's a different Webb Simpson. No one needed the offseason more than Webb. And I think from what I can understand, health, it sounds like check. And some hard work, check. Get back on track, check. Come back to a course that you feel comfortable with and you can play well at, check.
I like this.
Let's get off to a good start. Yeah, I like this. I like this feel here for Webb. All right, Continuing down. There's your boy Buckley at 80, Robbie Shelton 80, Sig 90. Now, can you throw a couple haymakers out there? Maybe a big long shot to win this. I wouldn't. Historically, it says no, as I mentioned off the names. The class is one here: Hideki, Knott, Smith, Kuchar. All right, Kazire probably had decent odds. JT won in 2017 when he broke the record. I mean, so we're starting to get into that territory. We didn't see a lot of long shots win last year, but can we get some top 20s as we look down here? Ben Griffin, now you work down into the 130 to 1. Ben played pretty good in the fall. That's a name I think you got to look at. Kazire has had great success here, including a win back in 2018 at 130 to 1. I think Nick Hardy's an interesting dude. Can he continue to grow on the PGA Tour? Chris Kirk, you talk about plotters. I mean, Jesus. Right. Kirk, you feel like Kirk
golf course.
Yeah, you feel like he almost won it. Nipped him. Remember that at the end. And Kirk had to have it that second to keep his card. And so now you're getting into where you can make some cases here. Okay, guy makes a cut, top 20, maybe get a hot putter on the weekend, maybe you clip off a 90 to 1 at Chris Kirk. I don't know. I'm not going to bet it, but if I had to throw some names at you here into this portion of the board, I would throw you a Kirk. And I probably would throw you a Ben Griffin. I think Ryan Palmer fits his place pretty well at 130 to 1. And I think Lipsky, as we look at that second-year player, is a player that I think can make the cut and sneak in at a top 20 as well at 150 to 1. All right, I want to ask you a question here.
Please.
I'm going to pull up the rookies here. Okay, because I do want to spend here just a little time here at the end of the show. As we talked about some of these second-year players and rookies, and I'm pulling back here to the beginning here on my Fantasy National site because I have all of the rookies tagged.
Yep.
So when we look at the rookies in the field, I don't think anybody's going to argue that Taylor Montgomery probably has the highest ceiling. I mean, this dude,
no doubt,
has a high
at least
ceiling.
from what we've seen in the last year.
Right.
And he fits the bill of a modern successful golfer, like moves it off the tee and can putt. Like we see so many guys that are approach kings. And again, we know that approach over the course of time is going to be the number one thing we're looking at. So from an iron standpoint, he's not a bad ball striker, But if we had somebody that came, like when Colin Morikawa hit the scene a couple of years ago, we already knew where he was going to be. We didn't think that he'd be the number one player in irons, and then all of a sudden he was. So we can find a couple of guys maybe fit that mold. But in terms of just modern golf, he can putt and he can move it. Like, two really good things. Again, is this the perfect week for him? No, from a course fit standpoint, absolutely not. But if he finds the right lines off of all the tees, he could make it his week. And that's the thing we're going to be looking at every week. That putter keeps him viable on almost every golf course. And that length is certainly going to play on a majority of PGA Tour golf courses.
I would put Davis Thompson either 2 or 3 on the rookie list. I really like Davis Thompson. I got to spend some time with him out in Vegas. I went out there. We did the show in the cut, and he is a premier driver of the ball. He's got good length off the tee, and he's accurate.
Yep.
I think his iron game is good. I think there's some maturity that needs to happen. He was a wonderful collegiate player. Is his putter going to be good enough to win on the PGA Tour? We'll see. It feels like Davis. It feels like Davis could be like Alex in that. Okay, let's get a year under our belt. Maybe he doesn't win his rookie season, which most rookies don't. But I can see Davis competing at a high level because when you have a weapon like the driver, I would argue that Davis was the best driver of the golf ball last year on the Korn Ferry Tour.
Oh wow, I can't quantify that one. So if that's what it was, and I know him from all of his amateur credentials.
Yeah,
and again, there are very few guys at the top of the sport that surprise any of us who are watching amateur and college golf before they got there. It's very difficult to sort of go unnoticed as a junior amateur college player and matriculate your way to the PGA Tour, then all of a sudden be a world beater.
Yeah.
So if you had the goods when you were 16, you typically have the goods when you're 18, when you're 20, when you're 25, and when you're 30. It's like there's no surprise that Scotty Scheffler became the number one player in the world. Now, do we think he was always going to? No, there's no guarantee that it's going to happen. But Scotty Scheffler was an elite player at his age group from the time he was 13, 14 years old. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Davis Thompson has been an elite player. He's known how to win at almost every level. Rising to this place. He has shown us the goods for a long period of time, and those goods travel to the PGA Tour for many guys effectively. So you're right. It's a safe bet on someone like Davis Thompson because he has proven it at every level up until this point.
Yeah. He feels like it didn't feel like the stage is too big. He feels like, that he needs to get some experience. There's no question about it. But he's got some weapons in his arsenal. I mean, that driver's a weapon, and he may not be able to use it as much here. And I'm not going to play him to win at 250 to 1. But he's a name that as we kind of go down this list of rookies, I think to look at just even long term on that list, I think Ben Griffin is a decent fit here. I think Ben Griffin.
Yeah, this is a good week for him.
I think Ben Griffin's a rookie that I would probably lean towards here.
Yes.
Birdies, opportunities. The dude gives himself a lot of looks.
Yes.
I like
keeps
Ben
it in
here.
front of him. And think about it. He should have won in Bermuda, had a collapse on the back nine, gave that tournament to Seamus Power in many respects. And that's a golf course that demands elite putting and accurate driving, more so because of the conditions there than necessarily the golf course. But it's, I think, the shortest golf course in the PGA Tour. So we're in another short ballpark this week where driving matters in terms of accuracy, not length, and you have to putt. Familiar grasses for him. Made 6 of 7 cuts so far in his rookie season. Like, he's a consistent performer. So even though we only really got to know him because it's really the only time that he truly contended was that week in Bermuda, he's a consistent guy. So when you look at the top of the rookie board right now on the PGA Tour, it's Montgomery, I think, head and shoulders above in terms of what we've seen from him. I mean, 3 top 10s. He's been great. Thomas Dietrich isn't playing this week, but also a guy that didn't miss any cuts in his official rookie season on the PGA Tour. And then Ben Griffin sort of slides in behind him. I don't know what the ceiling long-term prospects are for Ben Griffin, but for the sake of this podcast this week, given what we've seen from him, I really like Ben Griffin this week. It should be a good golf course for him.
Yeah, I do too. I think Eric Barnes could compete here as well. He had a top 10 there at the RSM. He's an intriguing player to me. Carl Yuan is fun. He is fun. I don't know if I would. No, I probably wouldn't go Carl Yuan here. You got Austin Eckroats of the world, Trevor Cohn. I think Cole Hammer is in the field. this week as
What
well.
an interesting path run with Cole Hammer. So he was leading, and I was with him also at Sea Island. And boy, he had just a horrific start last year. I mean, he was playing such bad golf, and he knew it, and kind of got down, and then showed up. And boy, the spotlight was bad on Saturday, and then he bounced back and played well on Sunday. Again, another one of those guys that's had the goods, household sort of name to those that follow amateur and college golf for a long time now, and just found a little something. And I'm actually blanking as to what it was that he found, but he was really open with me and talked sort of through just, finding patience and sticking with everything and staying positive. And so, did the winter reset off the heels of his best performance by leaps and bounds sort of give him this opportunity, because again, he's not an overpowering guy. He's got all the tools. He swings pretty hard at it. I think long term, like, he can project to add a little bit more to him, but I don't think he's ever going to be an elite length guy out here on the PGA Tour. So this is one of those weeks where if it's really clicking for him, then you'd hope he kind of finds it this week. But yeah, what a reintroduction to Cole Hammer when he had that run there at Sea Island.
Yep. I think that's as far as I would go on the rookies, and we'll talk more about the rookies in the pod as we go into some of these tournaments. But I think just highlighting some names here: Montgomery, Thompson. That's kind of 1 and 1A for me. I think Thomas Dietrich he's not in the field, but another rookie that I think will have some success on the PGA Tour. I think as far as this course is concerned, I think I would lean towards Ben Griffin.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah,
that's totally fair.
Tyson Alexander is another interesting rookie, I think, as we kind of go through the season. Harry Hall is a fun personality that we're working on getting on the podcast. I spent some time with him. Harry went to college with Taylor out at UNLV. Carson Young's a name that we've kind of seen pop up a little bit. Brandon Matthews is the long ball hitter that comes from the Korn Ferry Tour. I mean, just stupid long off the tee, kind of I think a guy that's progressing as an iron player, and the rest of the game, can he gain the experience to keep his card out there? Trevor Werbelow, a name that we know from our time at the College Golf Showcase. We saw him come through. He's got his card this year. Vincent Norman, another
That's
name.
the name. Yeah, it's where you got to. Again,
that's another one. Yep.
He moves it. So this is a difficult week and had a really bad fall. So he's going to be playing catch up most of this year. But another guy that's had, I thought, the proven goods. He was a D2 standout, transferred his final year to Florida State. And you talk to anybody in the know in the game, like, the ball has a different sound when it comes off of Vincent Norman's clubs. Like, people are really high on his talent. I don't think I've actually seen him up close and personal, but I believe in a lot of the people that have always been sort of hyping him up from the days when he was in D2. I can't remember which D2 power in Florida he was at. One of the, they're all those teams in the Sunshine State Conference and Division II golf are really good in some way, but he was an absolute stud. And another one of those guys that I think fits the goods category. Is this the week that he has the full reset? No, but I think we're going to see some splash at some point in time this year when he gets an opportunity, because he's that good.
Yep. It's awesome. All right. Well, that's it. You going to American Express next week?
I am working it.
I'll be on site for
I will
a couple
not tell
days.
you where from I'm working it. I'll keep that a bit of a mystery, but I will be on the air on PGA Tour Radio.
What a field. What a field.
Oh, it's great. It's we've written the obituary of what the PGA Tour looks like way too early in all of this. And honestly, Travis, if we didn't assign the word designated to these events, the season wouldn't feel that much different. Like, do big names play at Memorial every year? Yeah. Do the big names play at Bay Hill every year? Yeah. Were big names playing at Travelers every year? Yeah.
They weren't playing at the American Express, though. I was there last year.
I mean, you're right. And so now all of a sudden these guys are looking at how they're going to build their schedules and how it works in this year. So some guys played 2 weeks in Hawaii. Some guys took 1 week off, and they're going to hop and sort of go to it. I think Phoenix moving because of the Super Bowl changed a lot of sort of the pathways there. And also keep in mind at Pebble, all those guys that are going to be taking PIF money to go play in Saudi Arabia have to play 2 out of the next 3 in Pebble Beach, and they don't want to get those releases. So that field's going to be pretty good over the next couple of years. It's really hard to take a week off in the first 2 months of the PGA Tour schedule, because you're either playing elite golf courses, or now you're getting so much money to show up and play with the designation of these events. It's just awesome. I mean, absolute bangers from Maui all the way until we get to Florida in terms of golf courses, fields, whatever you want to do. It's really hard to take time off.
Love it. Well, I'll be on site. We're going to be heading out there. We've got a nice list here we're working on for the cut. So one of them is Ricky Fowler, which I'm hoping that he accepts because, I've been talking his changes for years and the path that he went down with John Tillery when he left Butch. Now he's back with Butch. I tweeted his current swing. It's as good as I've ever seen it. I would love to dig in X's and O's with Ricky. So I'm fingers crossed on that. We'll see how that transpires. But the field is really fantastic, good. And I'm excited this week. I love it. Primetime golf. Hey, kids down. Glass of wine is poured. I'm laying in bed and petting my dog and watching pro golf. It's like I could do that every week. Are you kidding me? Let's play golf every week in Hawaii. Let's just move the tour to Hawaii.
It'd be good. And then I think Champs Tour starts up there in like 2 weeks. So if we went to the Hawaii Fix, I think the entire month of January, there's something going on in it. But yeah, there's nothing better at this time of year. And I got on a high horse, a soapbox last week. Like, we don't need to call Maui a designated event to get people to tune in. Like, you're going to tune in. You're going to watch the whales. You're going to see the best players from the previous year, for the most part, play one another. It didn't matter that Rory was there or not. That was much ado about nothing, in terms of some people being like, oh, well, I can't believe Rory skipped. Like, who cares? At the end of it, the course is as much of a celebrity as most of the players in that field, too. Like, we just want to see really good golf. And we got treated to really good golf. And then when we thought it was going to be a runaway, thank you, Colin, gave us a reason to tune into the back nine on Sunday.
That's right. Oh, update. Georgia just scored another touchdown. It's
is it McIntosh? Is it my parlay hit?
72 to 7 as we
probably is.
Will Haskett at Will Haskett Twitter. Follow him. Listen to him on the radio. He's great. Appreciate it, buddy.
See you, bud.
Haymaker Coffee Company was established in 2021 to create the best coffee to fuel the underdogs who perseveres, who hustles, and have the give-it-all mentality to achieve their American dream. Haymaker Coffee, only roast top quality, specialty-grade coffee beans, resulting in brews that satisfies those who demand every drop from their coffee and day. If you work hard, run hard, fight hard, and play hard, we have your coffee right here.